Minister Dr. Joseph Wu. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, our dinner banquet is about to begin. Please take your seat. Thank you for your cooperation. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the dinner banquet is about to begin. Please be seated. Thank you for your cooperation. 各位贵宾，晚宴即将开始，麻烦请各位尽速就座，谢谢您的配合。Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the banquet is about to begin. Please be seated. Thank you very much. 各位贵宾，晚宴即将开始，请各位尽速就座，谢谢您的配合。Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Honorable Tony Abbott, former Prime Minister of Australia, with a warm round of applause. So thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to the dinner banquet of the 2021 Yushan Forum, Asian Dialogue for Innovation and Progress. During the day, we had fruitful discussions on a wide range of important topics, and now it's time for us to sit back, relax, and enjoy each other's company. To kick off, we would like to welcome the host of the banquet. Please welcome Dr. Joseph Wu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of China, Taiwan, to give us the remarks. Welcome.
Dr. Michael Hsiao, Chairman of the Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation, the Honorable Tony Abbott, former Prime Minister of Australia, and we also have very distinguished cabinet members and also the National Security Council Secretary General Wellington Koo, members of the Diplomatic Corps, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening.
It is a great honor to host tonight's dinner. On behalf of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I would like to thank you all for your enthusiastic participation in the forum, which would not have been successful without your dedication. I would also like to congratulate the Taiwan Asia Exchange Foundation for hosting the event again. The forum has established a reputation as a platform for prominent leaders and experts from around the world to exchange ideas and to share their wisdom. Tonight, we are delighted and honored to have the Honorable Tony Abbott join us as a guest speaker. I trust his speech will conclude this year's forum on a high note. Mr. Abbott is a firm believer in our shared values of democracy, human rights, and the rule of law, and has a clear understanding of the need to counter the coercive influence of authoritarian states. I'm sure we are all touched by his powerful speech this morning. In fact, after Mr. Abbott was sworn in as Australia's 28th Prime Minister in 2013, he embarked on a series of actions that have left a deep impact on Australia and the region. He finalized free trade agreements with Japan, Korea, and China, hosted the G20 summit, and promoted an agenda of job creation and economic growth. He also launched the new Colombo Plan to increase Australia's links with the Indo-Pacific region. Most importantly, the Abbott administration invited me to the great Aussie land as a special visitor, which transformed me into a true believer in Taiwan-Australia relations and a permanent friend of the great democracy down under. The only regret is that I did not get to stay long enough to pick up the Aussie accent. Meanwhile, we very much appreciate Mr. Abbott's support for Taiwan's bid to join the CPTPP, as well as for signing of an economic cooperation agreement between Taiwan and Australia. We have much to learn from Mr. Abbott and to look forward to working even more closely with him on our shared vision of a free and open, stable and prosperous Indo-Pacific. So without any further ado, let's welcome Mr. Abbott to the podium.
Minister Wu, your fellow ministers, excellencies representing Australia and the United States, and the European Union, other distinguished representatives of the Taiwanese government and people. It is a great honour for me to be here. It is a particular honour to have the opportunity to close this wonderful forum's proceedings with this speech this evening. Last week, Foreign Minister Wu spoke very frankly with the Australian people about the prospect of invasion that his nation faced. So I will do my best this evening to speak with equal candour. For a retired free world politician, there may be no more telling place to be right now than this, because here liberty and tyranny are most at odds. Taiwan is a liberal democracy of almost 25 million people, now in peril, so what Australian Democrat would not rally to your cause? We have to assume that China is preparing to take Taiwan by force if necessary, because President Xi himself has said that, even though Taiwan has never been part of Communist China and hasn't really been ruled from Beijing since 1895. But why would China be flying ever more menacing sorties against this island? And why would China be building a massive amphibious assault capability? And why would it be amassing batteries of carrier killing missiles if its plan were not to force the United States from the Western Pacific and to have the People's Liberation Army in charge here in Taipei? Now, I can hardly conceive of a more horrible prospect than a sea and air invasion of this island, preceded, as it almost certainly would be, by an ultimatum to the United States and its allies. And yet, isn't the alternative even worse? The subjection of a free people to a tyranny that brooks no opposition, no alternative sources of power, no independent thought, just ever more complete subservience to the Red Emperor, monitored and enforced by 24/7 electronic surveillance. Now, I am no military planner, but with Sun Tzu, imagine that Beijing would prefer to win without a fight. Beijing is already mixing intimidation with misinformation in the grey zone between peace and war. The campaign to take Taiwan has started. An invasion would be but the final consummation of Beijing's drive to put the so-called century of humiliation behind it. The steadily increasing sorties into Taiwanese air zones are designed to test your readiness, wear out your pilots and planes, and ultimately confuse you about the big exercise that might turn out to be a real attack. I imagine that these will increase and intensify and creep closer to Taiwan itself in the hope of provoking a reaction that would enable Beijing to claim that conflict was Taiwan's fault. Likewise, I'd expect the PLA Navy to start exercising in greater numbers closer to your shores. If it intimidates you into striking a deal, so much the better. Otherwise, again, the objective would be to build pressure and provoke an incident that could be blamed on Taiwan, along with the insistence that this was China's internal affair and no business of anyone else. I suspect that Chinese ships and planes will eventually come right up to the 12-mile limit. That's why it will be important for Taiwan's friends, the United States, Japan, Australia, Britain, and the Europeans regularly and in force to keep patrolling the Taiwan Straits to remind Beijing that these are international waters that it does not own. If sea and air intimidation doesn't produce the clash that China can claim is a casus belli, at some point I'd expect China to announce a blockade of the so-called rebel province and claim the right to intercept the ships and the planes carrying Taiwan's trade in the hope of making life here all but impossible. This would be the key moment for Taiwan's friends. Would they be prepared to run a Chinese blockade? And would China be prepared to intercept foreign ships and planes bound for Taiwan? My instinct is that China would be indeed reluctant to do so, but would instead challenge the United States and its allies to keep Taiwan supplied indefinitely. By that stage, the economic relationship between China and the US and its allies could long have ruptured, and the world could have divided into camps, essentially the democracies versus the dictatorships. Long before then, I imagine, there could have been cyber attack and counterattack, increasingly destructive, and Beijing might have mobilised any friends it has here to undermine Taiwan's will to resist. This is where Taiwan perhaps needs to be an Eastern Israel, capable of inflicting massive and asymmetric damage on any challenger. Rightly, Taiwan is preparing itself, but time might not be your friend, as the assumption that it's still years before China has the amphibious and the anti-submarine capability to prevail is only a comforting one if Taiwan and its friends are building their own capability even faster. Now, to the extent that there's a Biden doctrine post-Afghanistan, it's that America helps those who help themselves. And why not? Because no one could be expected to fight harder for Taiwan than you would be prepared to fight for yourselves. After seven decades of successful separation, I can't see the people of Taiwan ever willingly submitting to communist rule from Beijing. Conversely, I can't see Beijing ever accepting that Taiwan should be free. Beijing will say that Taiwan is no one else's business, and if other countries make it theirs, Beijing will say that it has no designs on anyone else. It is the old siren song that we all should recognise, as our Prime Minister has recognised from the 1930s. We have no further territorial ambitions. But that's not how dictatorships operate. And it's never been how Beijing operates. For millennia before communism, Beijing expected tribute from all under heaven. Marxism-Leninism has simply reinforced that age-old exceptionalism, and technology has simply extended Beijing's reach. Now, I can't think of a harder decision for an Australian government than the call to defend freedom far from home, except the call to defend freedom close to home, with weakened friends and stronger foes. Ladies and gentlemen, after 18 months of virus anxiety over the impact of COVID on our old and sick, the last thing anyone wants to contemplate is challenge from another quarter. But ready or not, China is coming for Taiwan's freedom, and the best way to avoid the war that no one wants is to be ready for it. These are difficult times, even daunting times. But the more we think things through, the better things will turn out to be. As I said this morning, this is a brave and a free people, and I am confident that the braver you are, the freer you will stay. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a real honour to be here. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Abbott, for your insights. Thank you. Please return to your seats. Thank you very much. And now we would like to invite everyone to join us in a toast. So please raise your glass and let's cheers to safety, to health, and to freedom. Cheers! So we are also very grateful that we have friends from the media to join us. 那我们非常感谢各位媒体朋友莅临。那我们现在就有请媒体朋友可以跟随工作人员到场外，主办单位备有餐盒，谢谢各位的莅临。And tonight, in addition to the delicacies, the organizer has prepared wonderful music for your enjoyment. Lin Music is an orchestra composed of professional musicians. Tonight, they will perform a series of Taiwanese classics. So the banquet will now begin. Please enjoy and bon appetit.